Welcome everyone to the all-important clash between USA and India. We have Carissa Yip on the left of our screen and Divya Deshmukh on the right. India is currently trailing the match 2-0 and it's a must-win situation for Divya. Karissa is an IM with 2 GM norms. Divya recently won the World Cup and became a GM. The arbiter shakes hands with the players, asks them if they are ready. It's 10 minutes plus 0 second increment with the crowd cheering for them, and you can see both of them have smiles on their faces. Last 1 minute, when you reach, you get 1 second increment, but in over the board play, 1 second is hardly anything. The players are ready here, and a handshake between them. Karissa with the white pieces opens with 1e4. Divya goes for the Sicilian. Knight to c3, trying to trick Divya a bit. e6 played. And now knight f3. So somehow Karissa has managed to get Divya out of her comfort zone. Knight comes out to c6. And d4, the open Sicilian. Pawn takes pawn, knight takes pawn. Knight comes out to f6. And Karissa is thinking. She goes bishop e2, and now Divya has many ways to play. She goes for the active bishop b4 line. White castles, and I think black must take and play knight e4 with a very complicated position. But Divya goes castles, and this is not a good move by Divya. And I think she reacted in the wrong way. Taking on c6 is a very good move, because now after b takes c6, e5, knight d5, there's the move knight e4, and already with c4 coming in and the pawn on e5, the d6 square being weak, black is in trouble. And you can see there Divya realizing what she has done out of the opening, because Karissa absolutely understood what's happening and she instantly took on c6. Now the other option is to take with the d pawn on c6, and when you take here, e5 is still possible. So Divya does take d takes c6, e5 pushed by Karissa. She's playing super quick. Now if you take bishop c3, b takes c3, oh, instead Divya goes queen takes queen, rook takes queen, and plays her knight to d5. But isn't knight e4 super strong? Karissa plays knight e4. She's in her element. She's feeling the energy flowing to her, and Divya needs to be super careful. It's just 11 moves and she's already in a tough situation. And you can see the players, of course, being egged on by the crowd. It's very, very difficult to focus in such an environment, but at the same time, it's also very interesting that, chess is being shown in this way, where the crowd is able to join in. There are cheers happening. It's not just the traditional quiet environment. After all, it's an exhibition match. And b6 played by Divya, big mistake. She should have played b5, trying to stop c4. May not have been the best, but it's still fighting position. Now c4 played, knight to c7, and white has a very strong move here, which is bishop g5. Will Karissa find it? She's already very excited to make her move. She plays it. What a move. And now this knight is going to be attacked with bishop d8. h6 played. Is bishop d8 super strong? Did Divya miss it? And she plays it, bishop d8. And the main point is that after knight a6, there's a3 and the bishop is trapped. There's nowhere to go. Divya has been outplayed here totally. Because if bishop b7, I just come back, bishop h4, and this is gone. She plays knight to d5. She gives back her knight, but that's too much. Karissa is like, okay, let me calculate now. If cd, this is hanging here, she takes, if you take rook d8, Then there is d takes c6 with knight jumping in. The pawn is like incredibly strong. So cd5, and if you take cd5 attacking the knight as well as the bishop, I can play this move a3 again. The bishop is trapped. That's the problem for Divya. So she's unable to actually wriggle out of this mess with an equal material. cd5 taken by Karissa, who has 8 minutes 29 seconds. Divya at 6 minutes 50 seconds. Look at Divya's heart rate. It's almost 160. She's unable to, of course, feel normally right now because she is losing material. Let's look at the other options. If e takes d5, she does take it, and now again a3. Beautiful move found by Carissa Yip. She plays this move. The bishop has to move away, but where? If you go bishop a5, there is b4, bishop c5, there's knight takes c5, and these two squares don't exist at all. So a3 played here. 6 minutes for Divya Deshmukh. And Karissa, look at the confidence on her face. And for Divya, of course, this is a tough moment. She does have a smile on her face here, but it's not a happy smile there by her. And she takes on d8, ab4. Again, the problem was you wanted to take the knight, but the rook was hanging. So bishop e6, now threatening to take here on e4. The knight goes back to g3. Pawn to c5. Well, materially, Divya has only one pawn for the piece. That's too little. Takes. But can she make a comeback? Can she fight back here? It's very important for the team. The score is 2-0 in Team USA's favor. If Divya manages to secure a comeback here, it would be 2-1. Rook d2 played. And now pawn to a5. Karissa plays pawn to f4. She's going with f5 in the air. g6 stopping it. And bishop to f3. Now attacking the d5 pawn here. Trying to get rook to d1 to attack it even further. Pawn a4. Gaining further space on the queen side. And Karissa gets rook d1. The d5 pawn is lost. Rook b8 played. And now you can take on d5. It's a good move, but there's even stronger move, knight e4. You can't take the knight as the rook on d8 is hanging, and I'm attacking c5, I'm attacking f6. Jumps in, knight to e4. And Divya, who has still 4 minutes 50 seconds, is in big trouble here. Big trouble, because c5 is hanging. If you save it with c4, I jump in with knight f6 check, and next move I capture this pawn on d5. So look at Karissa there. She is laughing, smiling. And Divya, well, it's such a difficult position that even for a fighter like Divya, it's something where you kind of lose hope. .150 is her heart rate. And Divya going in for a major thing here, because I don't know what are the other possibilities. There is rook b5 here, but maybe knight c3 attacks the rook and the pawn, so that shouldn't work. d4, doesn't really help. Knight takes c5 is hanging. Yeah, the time is running down. 3 minutes 30 seconds on the clock. But the time is not the main problem here for Divya. Of course, it's her clock. And she goes pawn to c4. Karissa goes in with a check. King to g7. And she takes on d5. What's the way that Divya can get something here? Does she have any tactics left? 2 minutes 50 seconds for Divya. And she's looking at the clock, she's looking at the position. Maybe she's spotting some kind of a tactic here which involves her c pawn attacking, going down. Maybe a3 takes. She has to calculate that. a3, ba, c3. And now the thing is, if you go up rook d3, there is c2 and black is back in the game. But there is rook c2 here. And then if I play bishop d5, knight d5, this should be winning. Oh, she does play a3. She does play her pawn to a3 here. Divya has pushed her pawn down the board to a3. And Karissa must take the pawn. That's the only move. She thinks a bit there. She knows that this is a critical moment for her. And she takes on a3. For Divya, it's about pushing that pawn. Go for it. 2 minutes on the clock. This is final idea that Divya has. And she's just trying to see if bishop takes d5 makes any sense. Not really. And Divya now, she does play c3, but she has only 1 minute 24 seconds. Rook c2. Karissa is so confident. She's moving so quickly there. Rook b5 played. And now Karissa can simply take on c3 here. That seems like a good move. There's also, maybe coming back doesn't make sense on f3, so take on d5. Because if you took bishop d5, there was rook d3, and then that would have been bad. So rook takes d5, knight takes d5, bishop d5. From being a piece down, now Divya is an exchange down. So some improvement in her situation, but the position does look totally lost. Time wise, 1 minute 16 seconds. And Karissa pushes her a pawn down, a5, rook a5, and rook comes to d4, defending the pawn. And of course, Karissa is totally winning here, but Divya has to fight with 1 minute 5 seconds. Bishop comes back to e6. I guess the easiest way is to somehow dislodge the rook here on a5. So, but first she gets the king in. g5 played by Divya. Interesting move. g3 by Karissa, defending her f4 pawn. King comes up to g6. Divya starting to make her moves quickly. 1 minute left on the clock. And now rook to c6. And here's the plan. You go rook b6, rook b5. Takes on f4. Pawn takes. And getting the king in. King f5. rook b6 with the idea of rook b5. But you can feel that black's position has slightly gotten better. Very slightly. Rook comes to a8. And rook b5 with the idea of a5. Rook c8 played. And now the threat is rook c2 check, bringing the rook behind. Maybe the h2 pawn is a bit weak. The h pawn can run down the board. Some counterplay coming up. Divya has somehow managed to give some hope to the Indian fans. But of course the bar just doesn't budge. It's like it's totally winning. King e3. Now you can put your rook here on a2. But then it's not very helpful. Divya actually chops off the h2 pawn. And now even a move like rook a4 wins, because rook a4 there is bishop d7, there's e6 check, and you can queen here, so king e6 and rook b6 check, and white is still winning. Karissa, who has 4 minutes left on the clock, calculates this through, plays a6. Divya quickly brings her rook back. And now rook to d6, check, played. King goes to d4. Should Divya take the pawn on f4? She has 30 seconds. Now Divya's clock is running. She's down to 25 seconds. She takes the pawn on f4. And Karissa, who has 3 minutes 44 seconds here, goes rook to b7. She's planning to push her pawn down. Rook check. And now where will the white king go? Because the moment you move the king, the e5 pawn is hanging. Has Divya fought back here with 22 seconds on her clock? Look at her heart rate. She is at 170 beats per minute. Insane. But look at Karissa. I love how she is using her time here. She is taking good enough time, because that's what she managed to build, a time lead in the game. Now 3 minutes left. She's calculating it through. The best move here is king c5. Then you pick up the pawn on e5. And now you move ahead, perhaps with, the a pawn is hanging here, so a7. And it might feel like everything is very precariously positioned, but a check here is met with king b6 and white is winning. Let's see what Karissa does. Check here. Down to 2 minutes 26 seconds. This is just pure experience in action. Not speeding, being calm, calculating it through. Goes king c5. Divya chops off the pawn. a7 instantly played. It has been calculated. Divya's time running down. 18, 17, 16. She has to move. But there are no good moves that are easily possible to be spotted. 8 seconds, 7, 6, 5. Divya, make a move. You have 1 second increment per move. She goes for a check. But Karissa is ready with her response. She goes king b6. And now the rook is hanging. Divya's time goes to 0. She moves her rook down the board. But already the time is up. And Divya is shocked. She's shocked that she lost on time, but the position was also losing. Karissa shakes hands there. And look at her, looking cool, picks up the black king and shows it to the crowd. What a nice game by Karissa. Divya was outplayed out of the opening, and USA beat Team India 3-0 in this exhibition match. What a performance by the US team.